My mother and father built this house in 1989. The trout stream is about 100 feet from where I'm sitting, and I'm not going anywhere, which is why it still surprises me that a few years ago, I seriously asked whether I should sell it. I was caring for my mother at the time, and everything in my life was under review, including the house she built. So I used AI to look at that question honestly instead of emotionally. What came back wasn't the answer I expected. I didn't need a smaller house. I needed to downsize my life, not my home. And I don't mean making my life smaller. I mean making it less crowded. Fewer things competing for my time, my energy, and my attention. So how do you downsize your life without downsizing your home? Today, I want to show you the question that uncovered the real problem, the ordinary Tuesday that showed me the life I wanted, and the room that proved I could keep this house without letting it keep all of me. Everybody in my life had an opinion, and most of them arrived as a question. Should I sell the house? Rent it out? Was it too much house to keep up with? And then came one question nobody meant as a hard question, but it landed like one. Would I actually want to stay here after my mother was gone? I didn't need another opinion. I needed to know what was actually driving the question. So I sat down with AI and I told it I was considering selling the house my parents built. And I asked it not to give me any advice, just to ask me 10 questions one at a time until we found out what was really behind it. I didn't ask it to tell me what to do. I asked it to ask me questions. And about 10 questions in, something came out of my mouth that I had never said out loud. This had always been my parents' home, their things, their history, their life. I was keeping this house, but I wasn't really living in it. The real question was whether I could stay and make it mine, whether I was allowed to make new memories in a house already full of them. The house wasn't the problem. The question I hadn't let myself ask was, this is where it clicked. Decluttering removes objects. Downsizing removes obligations. Those aren't the same thing. A messy drawer costs you a drawer, but a room you heat, clean, insure, and feel guilty about costs you something every week. An object takes up space. An obligation takes up part of your life. I wasn't trying to own less. I was trying to be owned less. And I realized there are 3 ways to downsize. You can downsize the contents, the rooms you actively maintain, or the address itself. Contents, rooms, address. The first gives you back decisions. The second gives you back hours. The third gives you back money. I only ever needed the first 2. A lot of us freeze because we believe the only choices are sell the house or do nothing. But there's a lot of life between those 2. The next problem was that I couldn't picture it. I could describe what was wrong. I couldn't picture what better would look like, and you can't choose something you can't see. So I asked AI to walk me through one ordinary Tuesday in this house, hour by hour, as if the upkeep I described were already gone. Realistic, not optimistic, not a fantasy, a plain Tuesday. There was no room I was avoiding. No Saturday quietly disappearing into the house. And there was time in the middle of an ordinary day to walk down to the river. Something I used to think of as a vacation was 100 feet from my back door. Somewhere in the middle of reading that, the whole thing stopped feeling like a loss and started feeling like a preview. That was the first time I understood I wasn't downsizing a house. I was downsizing a week. So don't only ask what you want your home to look like. Ask what you want an ordinary Tuesday to feel like. What mattered wasn't emptier shelves. It was time to walk down to the river, a room that felt like mine. In my parents' story, without every object they ever owned. Then came the actual work. It isn't the lifting that makes this exhausting. It's making the same decision 400 times. By noon, you're not tired. You're done deciding. So I stopped deciding one object at a time, and I had AI interview me about what I actually valued and how I wanted my days to feel. Then turn my answers into rules I could use on anything. Rule 1, if I'll use it, it stays. If I'm keeping it because of who it belonged to, that goes on the memory list. Rule 2, does it actually work? My mother kept everything, and I understand why. She came from a time when you kept things because you might need them. But a broken thing in a box isn't a keepsake. It's just a broken thing in a box. Rule 3. If nobody in this house loves it, it goes to someone who will. After that, I wasn't deciding anymore. I was sorting. Completely different job. There's a room here that was supposed to be an office. Over the years, my mother turned it into the room where everything landed. Christmas ornaments, fly fishing supplies, food, and boxes stacked floor to ceiling. I took the rules in there item by item. Some things went to the thrift store, the fly tying supplies went to my nephew, and the outdated food went into the dumpster. Then came the day I walked in, and the room was completely empty, and it isn't finished. I'm redoing the floor right now. That room was my mother's extra large storage closet. It's going to be the room where I work in my style and my taste. I took a space that belonged to an old chapter and I'm making it a room for the life I'm living now. I took furniture out instead of bringing more in, and the room got bigger without adding a square foot. And I never packed a moving box. This is what downsizing your life can look like. Not always a smaller house, sometimes simply a shorter list. Fewer things asking you for something. Fewer rooms waiting on you. Fewer decisions you keep making again. The house didn't get smaller. My week did, but there were things no rule could touch. Because this isn't just a house. My mother and father built it with their own hands, and almost everything in it was chosen by somebody I love. So what are we actually afraid of? It isn't that we'll miss an object. It's that letting go of the object feels like letting go of the person. So I tried something that became the most meaningful part of the whole process. I let AI interview me. I told it I was going to talk about one room in the house my parents built, and I asked it to ask me one question at a time, the kind a good biographer would ask, until we had the story of that room written down. It asked questions I never would have thought to ask myself. When you close your eyes and picture this room, what do you notice first? What happened there that nobody outside your family would know? Those questions helped me find the few things that kept my family close and left the rest of the room mine to clear. Room by room, I answered, and AI helped me write it down. When I was finished, I had the story of this house in my own words, in a way no photograph could ever hold. And here's what I understand now. The object was never holding the memory I was. The object was just where I had been keeping it. Making this house mine isn't erasing my parents. It's the entire reason they built it. They didn't build it so I could preserve it exactly as they left it. They built a home for living, and living means something new gets to happen here. I'm doing this one room at a time, and I'm going to show you as it happens. If this is something you're wrestling with too, subscribe and come along. I couldn't make that season of my life lighter. I was caring for my mother, and there was no version of those years that was ever going to be easy. So I made everything around it lighter instead. Every unused room, every unopened box, and every decision I hadn't made was one more open question at the edge of my vision. I didn't get happier because I owned less. I got happier because fewer things were asking something from me, and because I finished deciding. The relief doesn't wait until the last box is gone. It begins the moment you stop having the same argument with yourself. Letting go of the small things turned out to be exactly how I kept the big one. This house and my parents' story are still here. But now there's room for mine. Downsizing my life didn't mean making it smaller. The house stayed the same size. The list got shorter and my life got bigger. Our home life can become easier after 60, lighter, more enjoyable. Not because we're losing our lives, because we're finally making room for the life we want now. So here's where you can begin. Open AI and type this. Ask me 10 questions to find out what I actually want more of at this point in my life. One question at a time. Don't begin by asking what you should get rid of. Begin by asking what you're trying to make room for. That's exactly where mine started. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.